Thank you everybody for joining us today for the public hearing. I'm going to go over just a few quick ground rules. I'll tell everybody what to expect in terms of meetings. So today's our public hearing. What I do not want to do is get in a back and forth. So we are here to listen to you. You will have 3 minutes. Tyler will give you a 30-second warning. You get one shot at the mic. So once you speak once, that's it. There's no, whatever it's called, giving your time to somebody else. Every individual gets 3 minutes. That's it. We love you, but we've got lots of people signed up. And so what's the word? Seating. There's no seating your time. And we will not be responding as committee members. We are just here to listen today. We will, however, have one more meeting next week at our regular time, for which we will be making, at that time, we'll be discussing what we've heard. We'll be discussing any other information we have, and we'll make a slate for a final recommendation to the select board for them to vote on at the meeting after. Now, I do want to set expectations. We, as a committee, make a recommendation to the select board, but in the end, the select board makes the final decision. And what we saw last time, and we will likely see again today, is possibly some edits to that final slate, depending on the discussion at the select board meeting. So just keep that in mind. Mike, do you have anything else you want to add that I may have missed?
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether, depending on what folks say there are a couple of comments I might want to make that I think will be helpful to them without getting into a back and forth. So I wonder if you make provision for that. I promise I won't go on long.
Okay, and I'll just answer a procedural question in the chat, which is what time is the regular meeting next week? That's at 2 p.m. So our regular meeting is typically from 2 to 3:30. And Mike, I will hold you to that. Of course, you can respond. You're a committee member. You can do whatever you want, but I do want to avoid a back and forth. So great. Anything else that I'm missing? The only thing I'd say is we're going to start with hearing from everybody who's physically in the room, and then we'll move to those who have signed up who are on the Zoom. And I think we have about 4 emails to read into the record. And I know you sent me that link, Tyler, but if you want to send it to me, yeah, I'll be happy.
Way ahead of you.
Thank you.
Miriam,
all right, shall we get started? Oh, Arthur, go ahead.
Miriam, can I?
Yeah, please.
So you've got a meeting scheduled for next week at 2 o'clock?
Yes, we have a meeting scheduled for next week at 2 o'clock.
Is that open to the public as well, in the sense that they will be able to comment, or is that strictly the 4 of us plus Tyler?
So, yep, that's a great question. So like all of our meetings, it will be open for the public to listen to. We will take public comments at the very end of the meeting, but we will have voted on the final slate by the time we take public comments. So this is really the last opportunity for public comment and public hearing before we vote on a final recommendation to the select board. Does that answer your question?
No, I'm sorry. Will we be able to register whatever additional or concerns that we have about the decisions that have been made?
We as the committee will be able to do that, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's what I'm asking. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I'm going to say that I answered Luciana's question live. Any other procedural questions? Otherwise, we'll get started. Tyler, I will turn it over to you.
All right, so if there's any folks in the room, just feel free to raise your hands and just make sure you say your name, and then I will just hit the timer and we'll start going from there. So, all right.
I'm Julie Berkeley. I am the Director of Programs at Friendship Works and also a longtime Brookline resident. I just wanted to talk a little bit about social isolation and loneliness and how it's come into the national spotlight even before the pandemic. Research has shown that it's linked to an estimated $6.7 billion annually in Medicare spending. And working with older adults has been Friendship Works' priority because when left unaddressed, social isolation leads to mental and physical decline. Research has shown that loneliness can increase mortality by 50%, as well as increasing the risk of Alzheimer's by 50% as well. Friendship Works is a nonprofit that's been working to reduce social isolation in Brookline and improve quality of life for older adults since 1984. We connect isolated older adults of Brookline with volunteers so they can experience companionship and friendships, feel more connected to their community, and have needed assistance to promote healthy aging. And we do this through our core programs of friendly helping, and medical escorts. We've been a longtime partner with the Brookline Council on Aging, who is a partner in our ARPA proposal. I just want to take 1 minute to share a brief story about a Brookline match that's been meeting for nearly 4 years. The older adult in her late 60s lived in an apartment in Brookline, surrounded by neighbors, but really was feeling very alone after the loss of her husband. 95% of the older adults we support are also living alone. During weekly visits, genuine friendship evolved to the point that they were talking nearly every day. When they were in person, they went for walks, they drank tea, they shared about their lives. And this relationship became a lifeline to both of them during the pandemic. Today, neither one of them thinks of this as a volunteer relationship, and instead they call themselves good friends, and they even claim to be best friends. But there's more. A year into volunteering, the volunteer received some unusual text from the older adult who could tell something was wrong. She rushed over to her home and found her experiencing a medical emergency and called 911. The EMTs who drove the older adult to the emergency room said that the volunteer probably saved her life by finding her when she did. Because you see, volunteers are really important, not only for friendship, but they're the eyes and ears in many older adults' lives, and maybe the first one to notice something's wrong. Okay, I'm gonna stop because I made it through my time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the room?
Sana Hafiz, Black and Brown National Program Director, Low Income Resident, Precinct 4.
You speak up just a little, just an
Sure.
octave.
Sana Hafiz, Black and Brown National Program Director, Low Income Resident, Precinct 4. Mike, we received your emails asking about next steps regarding Black and Brown Aviation Training Program. We've reached out via email regarding scheduling a meeting. Our training team would love to schedule a meeting with you soon. None of the funding from Ron Roan has trickled down to entities that the money was awarded to assist low-income Black and Brown folks. This money has not helped the most marginalized residents in Brookline. We cannot keep giving money to entities that have shown they are not effective. We cannot intentionally be ineffective unless the goal is to prevent equity for low-income Black and Brown people. As I said in the last meeting, we have met with community leaders. It seems that everyone is scrambling to meet with us to satisfy a requirement that they engage with the low-income Black and Brown community so that they can receive funding. Yet these same entities historically ignored our communities while receiving funding to assist those most in need. Regardless, many of these smaller requests from the multitude of entities that applied for ARPA funding can be fulfilled by the BCF grants as they have been in the past. BCF should be granted the funding they are requesting. Larger requests such as ours should be granted through this once-in-a-lifetime ARPA funding. This is the most equitable, but also the most effective way to allocate funding. Additionally, I'm appalled at the way Ade has been continuously mistreated openly. These petty attacks and snide remarks are constantly directed at the one person that has gone out and met with over 150 families in an effort to better his community. Questions regarding the ACC budget that you requested should have been directed back at those on the Affordable Child Care Committee. You being Miriam, received an amended budget on 3/13 from the BNBC president and myself and others CC'd in the email. And we received no response other than an automated reply regarding issues with the budget. Instead, you waited to publicly address someone not on the Affordable Child Care Committee regarding ACC matters. I and other ACC committee members have contacted you before and you did not reach out to any of us. There was a small industry semantic misunderstanding on the ACC proposal. This could have been easily corrected and sent back. The fact that the amount, even when corrected, still reaffirms our point that $500,000 is not feasible proves this line of inquiry was not in good faith. As you can see from our aviation video, when it comes to implementation, any kinks or small errors are caught and worked out. BNBC has been receptive and responsive. We have proven our capability. We have shown what we do with nothing. We have watched this body approve funding to those ineffective. This is a personal matter and a matter of personal bias. Thank you.
Sana, can you send that to our email address?
Sure.
Jimmy, you know mine?
Yes.
So I'd like to respond regarding the budget for, particularly regarding the budget for the childcare program. And I was the one who looked at the budget in detail and noticed that there was a very significant error in the rent that was put in. It was what is in fact a year's rent was put in as a month and then multiplied by 12.
Correct, and that's been corrected since then.
I appreciate that. But there were a couple of other questions that I raised about whether a contractor had been out to look at the property and given some quotes, because $500,000 for renovations for 2,000 square feet, 2,111 square feet of space, based on my knowledge of construction costs, seems like a very round number. I guess I'll put it that way. It doesn't seem like it's been thought through. When we have, especially when we have federal funds to spend, and we get something that is not put together at the same level of detail and with the same amount of care that we get from other organizations, honestly, it's very difficult to take it seriously. I think no matter who you are, or what your organization is, or who you represent, if you have a proposal, it has to get at least a B+. And the budget was the other end of the grade scale. So I really do object to the characterization that we haven't treated that we did snide or anything. So we've been accurate, and the budget isn't. How do we deal with that? So that's a rhetorical question. And as Miriam said, I don't want to get into back and forth, but
No, but I should be able to address.
No, this is not a back and forth. That's what we discussed at the beginning.
I don't-
You made an accusation. You made an accusation. Mike responded to it. I am also going to respond to the accusation you made against me. I was very clear in my original email asking for a revised budget that I would be away the week of March 13th. I specifically asked that the proposal be sent to Mike and others because I would not be able to respond. My out of office said exactly the same thing. And so when I returned back, I saw that budget, but it had not been sent to Mike Sandman as requested. And I was not able to comment on it because, as I had stated on more than one occasion, I was not able to access my email out of the country. It is a unique thing with the brookline.gov email. I cannot access it out of the country. Okay, so I'm responding to that. We will move on now to the next. We will move on now to the next speaker. Tyler, who is next?
All right, I'll go next. Hello, my name is Shatasia. Ade has been a pillar in the community.
Shatasia, sorry.
We have to hear.
Oh, okay, let me stand.
You don't have to
You have to
say
stand up. You just have to speak louder.
Yeah.
Just speak louder.
So my name is Shatasia. Ade has been a pillar in the community. He has helped me with funding when I was short. He has shown up and helped me by driving my son in out of daycare when I didn't have enough money to get there. As you see him back there, helping Meeksville, we're a family, community. He has empowered me to get involved and advocate for myself in my community, as you see I'm doing now. I have a little 2-year-old boy who I care about, and that matters to me. So what you said a little while ago was really rude.
Excuse me, but it wasn't.
Anyways, through BNBC, I have now become an ECC certified and plan to send my child to the BNBC ACC facility, and I should work there myself with my child.
I really am sorry if you felt that it was rude. I'm trying very hard to tell you to explain to you why we looked at that budget and said, this doesn't work.
But I'm just letting you know that I felt like that was rude. It was really rude.
Okay.
And Miriam, you waving your hand everywhere and that tone of voice, that was also rude. I felt, I feel really like you guys are like not listening to us. You're supposed to listen to us, and I
No,
don't.
we-
feel like- I
actually,
don't
we
feel like
listen.
So you're interrupting me.
Yeah,
You're not
you're
listening.
right. I am interrupting you
You're not
because you're saying
listening.
something that's not correct.
It is correct. You just said it. You can go back to the recording and listen to what you said and the tone of voice, the body language, you waving your hand and all that. It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate. We're here fighting for kids and childcare and us to be together and for help and for, someone like me to be able to speak for me because you don't get it clearly. Yeah. And that's it.
Okay,
Anybody else?
next speaker, Ade.
I'll try to improve. Sorry. I did Genesee, Black and Brown Director yesterday.
Step up, Abby, come on.
No, you can hear me.
No, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
No, I can't.
Step down. Because I'm just trying to say something real short,
Okay,
right? For people to be bound, they got to be willing to be chained. That's just one of my favorite quotes. And it's always impossible until it gets done. In terms of the aviation, it looks like it might be complicated. I've been in the industry for 13 years. If you don't know, Mike, I'm a certified captain with an ATP license. And it's written in the proposal that our industry, the director of the program is Joe Crawford. He's been doing this for 57 years as a certified FAA examiner and airline checkman. So the planes that you guys get on, those pilots, that's one of the guys that check them out by the FAA. So when we're talking about experience that's been put in the resume, we open the conversations. It might look complicated to some when you experience the need and the luxury that comes with of that experience. You understand the industry that moves. So I do hope we could have a conversation about that because we cannot miss this opportunity. And we keep mentioning the aviation and what it represents. This is a goal pushed by the federal government as well. Even through this Apple budget, they do have a workforce program that has to do with aviation and the shortage of pilots in this industry and how it affects this country. Beyond the minority scope, I'm one of those 1.2% in that industry that have acquired that experience over time. So when we approach this board or this committee with certain ideas and it gets pushed aside with the narrative of it looks too complicated, then we have to look at it from complication from whose perspective. You've seen the video. Those are kids that spend, Arthur's been around for some of those kids 8 weeks with me. Imagine what would happen in 3 weeks, 3 months in our program. This is what it comes with. I'm experienced to do that. And so is our committee. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind. But in terms of our community feel, my people know me and the work we do as a community. It takes a village to raise one. But it clearly looks like we meet in the perspective that it takes one to raise the village. Innovation and reinvention is the birthplace of some of the criteria of being effective and adjusting over time with life. So I do personally feel that it's a lot of, this is how we do it, doesn't make it right. There are other ways to do things, and that happens with conversation and the dialogue. So I don't feel it's fair. We've gotten the short end of the stick. Clearly, a lot of us in the community feel like that. So it's not a single individual's perspective. And I do hope this committee considers that, because the low-income vulnerable, we've been speaking for a while, and it's always you're not good enough. And that's tied into the perspective of what America is all about. When it's Black and brown people, we are not good enough. We don't do it. Nobody's perfect. We all can learn on the way. But the intent behind correcting people matters. It matters. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think last to speak, Raul.
Okay, hello, everyone. Raul Fernandez, Chair of the Board of Brookline for Racial Justice and Equity. Just want to start by saying how thankful we are for your support up until this point. Your tentative slate grants us $400,000 of the $475,000 we requested. Critical funding that will expand Brookline's capacity to identify, address, and ultimately eliminate racial inequities in our community And while we're thankful for that support, I'm here to urge you to fully fund our proposal. As a 7-year-old community organization which recently turned nonprofit, this is our first bite at the ARPA apple. Yet we find ourselves being considered against organizations which are taking their second bite. Your current slate grants millions of dollars to organizations that were collectively granted millions of dollars in the first round of ARPA funding, not even 1 year ago. Of course, those organizations are all worthy and deserve your support. Heck, I've supported many of them personally and professionally myself. But here we are, a racial justice organization led predominantly by people of color, applying for the first time with a request that is reasonable and a plan that is thoughtful, detailed, and intentional. It's also unique in that we seek to address not just the symptoms of the racial inequities exacerbated by COVID-19, which is critical and important, but also critical the upstream root causes of those inequities. The $75,000 restoration in our funding will not just enhance our capacity to deliver on our proposals, but will also have broad and longstanding benefits for all of Brookline. As I've said to this committee before, our proposal seeks to do the things which are necessary to address structural inequities, to identify and understand those inequities through our survey and community engagement events, to work with those most impacted as well as policymakers to identify, implement, and iterate on solutions to those inequities, to educate our community on the urgent need to support and adopt these solutions through our educational events, and to create an assessment and accountability mechanism through our racial equity dashboard to track progress, measure efficacy, and ensure that we're moving urgently to address inequities, especially those which pose the most existential threats to communities of color. At last week's meeting, there was an unexplained $25,000 cut to our proposal. That was in addition to a previous cut of $50,000 that would have funded an essential part of our community engagement work. But let me be clear, these cuts don't mean that we won't still endeavor to do that work. What they mean is that we're going to have to expend time and resources chasing down that $75,000 elsewhere instead of just getting straight to work. Wrapping up, I've been here where you are, and I know how difficult these decisions can be. But having done grant making before, I also know a good investment when I see one. I hope you do too. Please fully fund our proposal so that we at Brookline for Racial Justice and Equity can get to work delivering on it. Thank you.
I am going to make one comment, Raul, to your, just for you to keep in mind, we are going to have to put a contingency in the grant to Bridge that the money can't be spent on advocacy. And that is a requirement from ARPA, just so you know, it's a federal requirement. So,
absolutely. And we're okay with that.
Great. Go ahead, Tyler.
That's it for everyone in the room. So I think we can move.
With their written comments.
There are written comments. We have some hands raised in Zoom, so we're going to get to them.
Okay, I got you. Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Good.
So we're going to move over to the folks that have had their hand raised on Zoom next. I've been keeping track of who's been going first. We are doing this on a first come, first served basis. So Emi Takanami, you were the first one with your hand up. I'm going to promote you to a panelist. You can share your screen if you are comfortable, and I will start the timer when you start speaking.
Hi, can you hear me?
Perfect.
Great. Hi, folks. Emi Takanami, she, her, hers. I'm a resident in Precinct 10, also a board member of Brookline for Racial Justice and Equity, or Bridge. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for your time, energy, commitment to serving on this committee to ensure Brookline's ARPA proposals are thoughtfully vetted, and that these once-in-a-lifetime funds are equitably distributed in ways that help our community heal, recover, and thrive. I'm speaking today to ask for your support in fully funding Bridge's ARPA proposal to expand Brookline's capacity to support those most impacted by structural racism through deep partnership, increased community engagement, and accessible public education. I think this proposal is unique in that by increasing our capacity as an organization, you would also be simultaneously increasing the capacity of the whole town through Bridge's proposed strategic partnerships with town departments and community-based organizations. Some of our proposed projects, like our racial equity dashboard and community survey, are going to be useful tools for all stakeholders committed to working toward a more just and equitable Brookline. At this point, we all know that the COVID pandemic did not bring about the deep inequities we saw and continue to see, but only heightened and exposed them. And as Raul just mentioned, the root causes of health, housing, income, food, and other insecurities we see today include structural racism and other intersecting structural oppressions that Bridge hopes to tackle head on with the hope of preventing such damaging impacts from taking place in future pandemics and crises. Full funding of Bridge's proposal is going to give us the opportunity to carry out our full vision as we kickstart this new next chapter of our org with enough time and resources to also secure more sustainable funding. We hope that you also see the value of tackling both the dire impact of the pandemic, as well as some of the upstream causes that exacerbated and continue to exacerbate the symptoms we see today. Again, as Raul mentioned, it's one of the only organizations that did not already receive significant ARPA funding in the first round of allocations. I really hope you consider fully funding Bridge's proposal. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to hand multiple things here at once. There's only one of me.
Thank you. Abby, I can just, I see a few people in the participant list who have sent in emails. So we're happy to actually have you raise your hand and read your email, or I'm happy to read it, but we just wanted to give you that opportunity. So if you want to read, just go ahead and raise your hand and we'll get you in the queue. If you don't want to read it, I will go ahead and do that. Sorry, Tyler. I was asking Tyler to do too many things.
It's fine. Okay, next up is Natalia. Natalia, I'm going to promote you to a panelist. You can share your screen if you are comfortable. And when you start speaking, I will start the timer. Let's see. Okay, so here she comes.
Hi, apologies. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Natalia Linos. I'm a town meeting member from Precinct 6. I'm also chair of the Advisory Council on Public Health. I'm actually right now with the Advisory Council on Public Health for our retreat. And I wanted to speak, I haven't written my remarks in support of the proposal from the Brookline for Racial Justice and Equity, the proposal that they've put forward. As many of you know, I have spent the last 3 years working on COVID inequities, and racial inequities are ones that have been some of the starkest that we have seen. We have seen younger people of color being impacted. We have seen that these impacts are true from all sorts of, death, mortality, morbidity, but also very concerning are the long-term impacts for people of color in terms of educational attainment, mental health, et cetera. As part of the ACPH, the Advisory Council on Public Health in Brooklyn, we have been discussing these, but we simply do not have the time or the resources or the expertise to think through strategies. Why I am excited and supportive of the proposal from the Brooklyn for Racial Justice and Equity is that they would be a resource to the town, to committees, to really bring that racial equity perspective, that lens, their data, their analysis, as well as the public communications to bear and truly support the capacity of our town to respond in a way that reflects really what I believe the ARPA funds were for, so that we build better, so that we ensure that the future, any sort of pandemics, but also any other challenges do not show these stark racial inequities. So I urge you to fully support that proposal because it is not simply for an organization. It is really to build the capacity and support all of us. It's going to be supporting the health department and ACPH. We've already discussed ways that can happen. It can support our schools and the ways that we respond to other challenges. So I just wanted to step in and say, please do consider fully funding the Brooklyn for Racial Justice and Equity proposal. And I'm really, I should disclose that I am part of that board. And I am part of that board because I believe that that group is necessary, is needed. In the past, it has been an informal network, but I believe that in formalizing it, in introducing more public health dimensions.
30 seconds.
It can be what we hope it will be. And the funding, will be for 2 years or 3 years, but it will be necessary funding so they can build up a real structure, bring in grants, and continue the work well into the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up to speak is Rebecca. Rebecca, I'm going to promote you to a panelist. You can share your screen if you're comfortable, and I'll start the timer when you start speaking.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rebecca Obuko. I am a low-income resident and a mother here in Brookline. Also, the president of Black and Brown Club, and also a member of the Affordable Child Care Committee. I just want to touch base on what my team members have spoken about, Sana and Shatasia. The Affordable Child Care Committee sent out the budget the 13th of March. And yes, we received no response other than the automated response that was mentioned. I mean, there's no reason why this matter shouldn't have been addressed during the housing proposal time, other than mentioning it to an individual on the Affordable Child Care Committee, when you have always had access to multiple members of the ACC committee. We since have amended the budget, and I really consider that you look into it. On our point still stands, this project is not feasible with only 500,000, like that was emailed to us that, try to compel us to make a budget under 500,000. The renovation cost Mike mentioned is realistic. We will provide supplemental reference in the to amend the budget that will be shortly sent out today, most definitely. I mean, you can contact myself or Sana or any other member of the ACC committee. And I mean, also thank you for your time, everyone. And thank you also for Miriam responding about the email, because I'm the one who actually sent out the email. It was a combined effort. But this meeting has been an example of a tone policy for Black and Brown folks, and it's unacceptable. You don't have to like what we say, but you have to listen to it. You can't continue to listen to your constituency concern and priorities and not expect a pushback. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you guys look into the budget and fund the ACC program for Black and Brown folks in Brookline. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca, for that. And I appreciate what you said, and I think you are right. And I want to apologize because I got a little fired up, and I really did want this meeting to be about listening, and I did not model the behavior that I should have. So I apologize, and I appreciate your words.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to join that. I think your comment about listening, we're trying very hard to listen. I hope that what you experience as tone can be separated from the words of advice and criticism that are honest criticisms, and that you can work through them. And if you've got another budget that you'd like to submit, let's have a look at it.
Sure, we'll submit another budget to you today. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tyler, although it looks like I just lost the video of what was happening in the room. Oh, yep, okay.
Sorry about that. I'm not good working on one screen. Okay. All right, Abba is up next to speak. Can you still hear me, Miriam?
Yes, I can now. I did lose you there for a little bit, but you're back.
Yeah, I screwed that up. Okay, next up to speak is Abba. Abba, I'm going to promote you to a panelist. You can turn on your camera if you are comfortable, and I will start the timer as soon as you start speaking.
Everyone. I just want to say Oh, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I appreciate the sort of adjustment in the tone of this meeting because, you know, I was also feeling it. I think there's something to be said about the fact that a lot of the folks who are speaking and coming to these meetings are either Black and brown folks, folks representing low income, or folks sort of advocating for racial justice and racial equity. So I think when you zoom out, there's a really big picture that we're seeing here of the people in this community really trying to advocate for racial justice. And the dynamics of that happening in this space, I think, are just noteworthy. Anyways, I wanted to also make an appeal for consideration. As I've said multiple times, BCF has been mentioned every single meeting that we've had around this process. BCF has been mentioned by either you all, the panelists, or by organizations. And I think that speaks to the role that we've been playing in the community. And when we ask for this money for ARPA, it is a very different ask than what other organizations are asking for. Someone referenced last week, well, you all are getting $1 million. No, we're not. Actually, we redistribute that to 13 other organizations around town. BCF in and of itself gets maybe 20,000 to do the administration work that we're then, you know, doing to support organizations. So I think comparing BCF to other applicants, it's a very different process. It's a very different ask. We are asking to redistribute that money to multiple, over a dozen organizations. And we want to be able to do that, not just necessarily over the next year or two, but for as far along as we can, because we know that these needs around, you know, cash assistance, rental assistance, emergency support, they're not going to go away. They're not even going to go away when this ARPA process is over. And so really thinking about how do we strategically hold and utilize these resources to stretch them out and make them as impactful as possible. That's why we're asking for such a large number, not for us as BCF, but for the community that we are trying to support. The last thing I want to say is that, you know, we were invited to the town at the very beginning of this process to do a community engagement process. BCF was the organization that was trusted and asked as a resource to come and work with all kinds of stakeholders throughout the town because of the role that we play. So it's, again, ironic to me that we are, thank you, that we are seen as, you know, just this kind of singular entity when it comes to funding. But then when we are, you know, we're all over the town, partnering with organizations all over the town, that somehow gets missed in our request to support that work. And like I mentioned, we have been supporting over, you know, a dozen organizations. We will continue to do that. And we hope that you all will reconsider the amount that we've requested in order to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, and at this time, we have 26 attendees and no one has used the hand raise feature. I think, Miriam, if you want, we can move on to the written comments.
Sorry, I realized I was on mute. All right, so I am going to read the five, however many emails I have. Please excuse me, I have not had time to read them in advance. So if I stumble a little bit, that is why. And we will keep the public hearing open. So if when I am done, there's somebody who's decided they do want to speak, we will still acknowledge you. We won't close the public hearing until after that. All right, this email is from Suyang L. Kim, subject line in support of full funding for Bridges proposal. Dear members of the ARPA Submission Review Committee, my name is Suyang L. Kim, and I write to you today as a member of the Bridge leadership, as a Brookline resident and parent to children in the Brookline Public Schools, to ask that you approve full funding for Bridges proposal. Not only does full funding give Bridge enough time and support to become a financially sustaining organization, but it communicates to our town that we in Brookline are serious about racial justice and equity. The pandemic has only exposed the vast racial inequities in our systems that existed long before the pandemic. My hope as a woman of color is that Brookline can envision a different future for itself, a future that considers all members of the community, not just the majority. Racism is a public health crisis. Acknowledging this is important in advancing racial equity and justice and must be followed by allocation of resources and strategic action. If our community is serious about the work of equity, we must prioritize funding for the work that amplifies the voices of the marginalized in our community. Bridge has been doing this work for many years. Full funding at this time will help Bridge become a group that can partner with the town, to identify and eliminate racial inequities in Brookline. I look forward to your decision. Best, Soo Young El Kim. Name, Luciana Shatnick. I hope I got your last name correctly. Subject line, support for Brookline for racial justice and equity. Body, thank you so much for the hard work you have been doing. It does not go unnoticed. My name is Luciana Shatnick, Brookline resident since 1990 and an immigrant from Brazil. I have been involved in many organizations since 2018, and since 2018, I have been on the leadership of Bridge, working actively to address issues of equity and racial justice. Our current board has the most unique representation of any other board in Brookline, with our Black, Latinos, Asians, and Native American majority members. We are committed to work to help and support our town address the most pressing racial and equity issues. Also support educate and plan for a better future we all know Brookline can have. Thank you for considering supporting us. Sincerely, Luciana Shatnick. Abby, next email, Abby Erdman. Subject line, in support of Bridges proposal. Body, dear ARPA committee, Bridges proposal for ARPA funds will greatly expand Bridges' ability to advocate for racial justice and equity. Bridge seeks to partner with the town government as well as other anti-racist organizations to forego policies and practices that move Brookline towards racial justice and equity. With the majority BIPOC board, Bridge can connect with communities of color in town, working with them as well, assessing our effectiveness. The pandemic has hit everyone hard, and especially people of color. We hope to support BIPOC people getting more involved, as it makes sense that those who live with lived experience lead these efforts. Bridge was founded in 2015 to address systemic racism and white supremacy. Sadly, there is still a tremendous need to continue to address these issues. Bridge has a track record and a committed board and has grown from a group of 6 to over 100 members. With ARPA funds, Bridge can move to the next level, partnering even more effectively with official town agencies and community organizations. Please fully support Bridges' proposal by funding it for the next 3 years so we can help make Brookline a more welcoming and inclusive community. With this kind of financial support, Bridge will gain the capacity to be truly effective and sustainable, benefiting everyone in Brookline, especially those hardest hit by the pandemic. Brookline needs an expanded and even more effective Bridge. With appreciation for your consideration, Abby Erdman. And, 2 more. This one is short. Name, John Herbert. Subject line, funding for project 2343. Body, dear ARPA committee. All of the projects discussed at the meeting today from where I joined the Zoom at about 2:40 p.m. have specific goals and results, except the request for Brookline for racial justice. The stated reason for funding for the organization seems to be to seek more funding and to, quote, build an equity dashboard to show how we're making progress. This goal seems circular. Just my 2 cents. Without having access to the proposal, although you can access the proposal, that's my little sideline, it is available on the website, and based only on what I heard in the meeting. John Herbert, town meeting member, precinct 7. Final email, David Rockwell. Subject line, endorsement of the ARPA Round 2 proposed grants for Brookline Community Development Corporation, formerly known as the Brookline Improvement Coalition. Body. This is to indicate the endorsement by the Brookline branch of the Greater Boston Interfaith Organization, or GBIO, to the following ARPA Round 2 proposed grants for the Brookline Community Development Corporation. 2307, $756,000 for renovation and green upgrade to 1017 Beacon Street, a 16-unit property owned by the CDC but managed by Pine Street Inn, housing very low-income households. And 2356, $300,000 to establish a pre-development fund to be used for front-end land acquisition and professional costs leading to possible new affordable housing developments. GBIO is a nonpartisan coalition of nearly 60 faith-based houses of worship in Massachusetts, working on issues of social and economic justice at the state, local, and neighborhood levels. Our Brookline GBIO team represents 6 houses of worship that are either located in Brookline or on its periphery, but with many Brookline residents among their congregants. It also represents many tenants in Brookline public housing. We support BCDC's 2 grant applications because they seek to address the serious affordable housing crisis in Brookline, and thus fully in line with GBIO's ongoing housing justice campaign for more resources for affordable housing in both the public housing and private sectors. We applaud the new leadership at the CDC, which has brought a new vision to the organization, focused on stabilizing and improving its 2 existing affordable housing properties, and begun exploring ways of supporting the rights of low and moderate income tenants in Brookline. The funds for 1017 Beacon Street will accomplish needed renovations and green upgrades at that property, which exclusively houses very low income single persons receiving services from the Pine Street Inn. The pre-development funding will allow BCDC compete in the high cost and competitive Brookline real estate market for vacant or underutilized properties that could be developed into affordable housing. Both programs will serve low and moderate income populations that are a high priority under the guidelines for the intended use of ARPA funds. We urge the committee to recommend both these grant applications to the Brookline Select Board for funding from ARPA funds. Thank you, and thank you for your service to the town of Brookline. And that is it. I missed my calling. I should have gone to theater school, right? All right, and it looks like we have one more hand raised. Tyler, if you want to go ahead. And then we'll close the public hearing after that.
All right, Tamu, I'm going to promote you to a panelist. You can share your screen if you are comfortable. And as soon as you start speaking, I will start the timer. Tamu, it looks like you're still on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Tamu Jackson, and I'd like to speak first on behalf of the Black and Brown Committee for the affordable childcare. Having been a mom in this community for 13 years, a therapeutic foster mom for even longer than that, I've had many children who have come into my home and my own children who had to be bussed out of the community in order to receive care. And I just want to think about how a lot of our children come in from the METCO program and they're bussed into this community, and it's a beautiful thing, but it's really hard to have to get bussed out and then bussed back in. And I just want you guys to really think about the opportunity for people in this community to have their own childcare, and a lot of them to be able to provide that childcare, to be able to work and have childcare in their community. Is really important. For example, my little guy had to get on the METCO bus and go to Roxbury to go to an after-school program, and then I had to come from way across town to pick him up, and it was just very hard. And it also puts you in a situation as a parent where you have to be very selective about the opportunities that you take, because you have to take that into consideration. And I also wanted to mention the aviation program. There's one thing that I'm not sure if people think about, but this would be a first in the nation opportunity. And think about Brookline being a part of that. Think about Brookline being a beacon, not just in Massachusetts, but in the nation, to be a part of that, to give children the opportunity to change the entire trajectory of their life and their opportunities. It's just a massive opportunity. And I just want people to try and think about that and how this could somehow be funded or incorporated. And so I just really urge for the thinking about this to happen. And lastly, BCF does so much amazing work in the community. And I want to support the funding requests that they have and the work that they're continuing to do in the community and will continue to do. And I think that if there's a way to support that more, it's something that should really be on the table. And so I just wanted to encourage those three things. I didn't write anything out. I'm just talking off the top of my head, and that's it. Oh, lastly, no, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamu. Last call for anyone in the room who has not spoken or anyone on the Zoom who would like to speak. Otherwise, I am going to close the public hearing.
Can you remind us when the select board votes?
Yes, so we have a final meeting as a committee next week on April 7th, Friday, April 7th at 2 p.m. And then the slate recommendations will go before the select board on Tuesday, April 11th, sometime after, my guess is anytime after 5. Until the agenda is created, we won't know exactly what time.
We did have one other hand raised, so I'm, okay, let's see. Ty, I'm gonna promote you to a panelist. You can share your screen if you are comfortable. Let me get this timer pulled back up. And as soon as you start speaking, I'll start the timer.
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good afternoon. Just thank you for letting us voice our opinions. Yeah, I'm just also supporting all the programs, but particularly the aviation program. Like everybody has been saying for months now. At this point, that video has been seen by not just the town of Brookline, little neighborhoods in Boston that I come from, but it's also made its way down south. It's also made its way to the West Coast, and it'll soon be worldwide. So right now, you know, it seems like it's just a meeting with us and you guys, but actually a lot of people are focusing on this, and that's not no threat or anything. Like, it's not like that. We're just trying to shine a light on this because everybody knows nationwide that this will be the first Black and brown aviation training program that has ever happened in the United States. So seeing that we're in Brookline, Mass. I live in Boston. I've seen how over 10 years the city has easily been changed. Huntington Ave looks like Harvard Street, all the way up to Heath Street looks like Harvard Street, except for Heath Street. You know what I'm saying? It's like Boston has been taken over with opportunities for the white privileged kids or any other demographic, which is we all want that, but can the world have that? You know what I'm saying? Like Boston has rock climbing, Brookline has you can be anything you want to be. I see mothers on Harvard Street push their kids up Harvard Street. The kid could point at the trolley driver, he could point at the bus driver, he could point at the pastor in the church, he could point at the yoga business that's about to open up on Mission Hill, and that was never like that before. See what I'm saying? You guys have opportunities for your kids to do anything they want to be. They even have time to mess up and get on methadone mild, get that together and come back and flourish. We're just asking for a simple chance to have that, be able to say to our kids, like, you can become a pilot. I'm saying Boston as a whole, including Brookline, which is in the middle of Boston, has establishments for the kids to be anything they want to be, including ATP pilots. This program is popping up everywhere now all of a sudden. So I'll just land my plane right there. Well, this is going to be nationwide. What's going on, and right now, all the way down to Alabama, to the cotton fields of Mississippi, people that had ancestors come from there and never got nothing are paying attention to Brookline. So once again, thank you. And yeah, I'm finished right there. Thank you, and have a good afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for letting me speak.
And we have another hand, so I'm gonna promote them next. Manel, I'm gonna promote you to a panelist. You can share your camera if you're comfortable. And I will start the timer when you start speaking.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not gonna share my camera. I'm in the hospital with my wife right now. She says hello, but we did want to make a comment in support of Black and Brown and their initiatives, especially the aviation. That's first in the nation. I feel that'd be amazing. But we're just calling in to give our support for Black and Brown and their initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Janelle. Best wishes to your wife. I hope for a speedy recovery. Okay, I see no hands raised. Last call for anyone in the room? Nope. Okay, so I am going to close this public hearing. I'm going to thank everyone for attending. I'm going to apologize one more time for how it started. Definitely not how we wanted to get off, and I own that, so I apologize for that. But I want to be assured that we did hear you. We are listening, even if imperfectly. And I will encourage you all to please join us next Friday at 2 p.m. same time, slightly different time, same place, as the committee makes its final deliberations, to make our final recommendations to the select board. Is there anything else any of the committee members would like to add, before we conclude this meeting? Nope, I'm getting Mike. Anything from you? Tyler? All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you have a fabulous weekend.
You?
Say baby like the color.